Hello friends, and welcome to my video discussing the QHora-322 non-wireless, non-Wi-Fi router switch. So why did I get this? Well, my story is I'm a tech enthusiast and I love interesting devices. And this is the only one on the market. Let's peel this off first, by the way. QNAP. So this is the only non-Wi-Fi, non-wireless internet router firewall and switch, and it's a really great all-in-one device that I just received yesterday and I'm about to install it. If this video is up, then obviously I installed it and it works great and fantastic. It's the QHora-322. Why did I get this device? The reason being are these ports over here. So what we have on a lot of devices right now on the market is they lack faster internet connections. The reason why I say this is that I have, for example, the most expensive ASUS wireless router where I have the Wi-Fi turned off. I'll tell you more about that later. But that has about 8 1 gigabit ports and 2 10 gigabit ports, but those are used basically for connecting to the internet possibly, and it's unfortunate that it lacks important features. Also, I find that router is a bit noisy even though I have the Wi-Fi off. I'm hoping this one is not going to be as noisy and it's going to be built of a higher quality. So let me show you this device right here on the internet. Why does it have the reviews 3.1? Is because people think it's a wireless router because it says wireless in the title, but it's not. This is a wired router specifically. You can't use this wirelessly. So in order to get a switch that's 2.5 gigabit, most of them, they're only 1 gigabit. And 10 gigabit is really good for NAS features. So the device that I switched over from is this one, ASUS AX6000. It's an expensive device. It's still available. And look at this thing. First of all, it's huge. Oh, it needs all those antennas for sending wireless signal everywhere. I'm actually against Wi-Fi. I'm against a whole bunch of different so you see you have 2 10 gigabit ports, but they're more for connecting this router to the internet. And these are all 1 gigabit. So we have 8 1 gigabit ports and we have maybe a couple that are 10 gigabit. That's not very convenient. While over here is you have 6 2.5 gigabit ports. This 2.5 gigabit port is an important number because right now, if you have a fiber optic internet, you might have 1 gigabit already, but then what are you going to do with a 2 gigabit connection? How are you going to serve it to other computers in the house? If you have only a 1 gigabit port in your router switch, then see that's why these ports are freaking useless. So imagine you have a faster 2 gigabit connection, and let's say you connect the 2 gigabit connection here, and these are 1 gigabit. So the top speed that these could get from your internet connection is only 1 gigabit. Meanwhile here, you could get the full 2 gigabits on another 5 ports, and then you could also connect that to a 10 gigabit network. So what does 2.5 gigabit mean? Basically, it means is that you could get up to 250 megabytes a second. And on this one, you could get up to a gigabyte a second. but the more realistic numbers are probably 240 to 260 and 600 to 700 on these megabytes a second. But that's a lot. That's very fast. So you have a router like this, and so with this one, it's a bit of a dead end because it's neither here nor there. So let's say I wound up upgrading from the 1 gigabit connection to the 2 gigabit connection. All of a sudden, all these devices that are 1 gigabit connected, might as well, these ports are completely useless. I don't know why for a $400 router, they couldn't do a better one. I mean, ASUS is probably the best one. I like to feature the best ones. Well, as I mentioned, the internet is turned off on those. But this thing is like a freaking flying saucer. And imagine this thing is broadcasting a signal to you, your family, your pets, and all these devices around you. They're heating up your body. One of the things that people don't realize is that sure that there's a certain limit to the exposure of these devices that you have, but the way that it's worded is that unless it heats up a subject, it doesn't really matter. So notice my iPad, I'm using it wired. There are USB-C hubs for laptops you could connect to, and then the USB-C hub has an Ethernet port on it, a gigabit port, which is fine. So this is where the QNAP QHora shines. When I saw this, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I can actually just have wired networking with my devices, which get actually faster internet because of this. So it's high-speed internet, and then it connects with other devices in my network. Like, for example, so I have this one, this industrial grade switch. So notice these ports over here. These are 10 gigabit ports, all of this. All of this is 10 gigabit. So these ports are fiber optic SFP plus 10 gigabit ports, and these are regular copper cable 10 gigabit ports. What does this mean? When I connect this to my network, I can connect the internet here, so I could get the 2 gigabit internet, and then I could share it into my network at into the 10 gigabit speed. And whatever devices that are 2.5 gigabits, that's fine. There are network adapters. It's still 2.5 times faster than 1 gigabit. So that's very convenient. So this switch, what I like also about this switch is it gives you the best of both worlds. You have both SFP plus connection, the fiber optic connection, and the Ethernet connection. But you have to also understand this, is that if you plug something into port 1, you can't plug it into the fiber optic port 1. And so on and so forth. Over here, you see here, these 4 ports, and these are dedicated fiber optic ports. So moving on. Why don't I like wireless connections? Well, it's a personal life choice. I believe I'm one of those people that's electrosensitive, and I believe that we're all electrosensitive. And I have this machine, and what's interesting is that if you got one of these, you could actually measure different electromagnetic fields coming off from your wireless devices. So, for example, your phone. So you just hold this meter, and it gives you values. What do the values mean? You have to figure out for yourself. But my point is this, is that when you have devices like this, imagine you get the best, most powerful Wi-Fi router. This thing is on 24/7 sending out signals. Meanwhile, with a networking cable, I could have a dedicated signal to open 24/7, and I don't have to have crazy Wi-Fi signals blasting through family and pets and everything, just to get me to download watch a YouTube video. That's retarded. So I'm getting all this radiation that I'm not even aware of, but because people don't have this meter, they haven't been able to measure it. Once you actually can measure what your phones create, what other devices create, then you start, hey, why don't I switch over to Ethernet? So Ethernet is faster. It doesn't have any lags from being too far away. You just connect Ethernet devices. And nowadays, with USB-C hubs with Ethernet ports on them, you could have the iPad charge up and get internet right from it. So let's look at this device a little bit closer. This is the bottom of it. It runs off 12 volts, 3 amps. And you see it has this, what looks like a 5525 possibly, or a 5521 plug. This is a standard plug that they have in there. And this device, what I like about this power adapter, notice over here it says UO listed. A lot of companies get cheaper adapters that are not UO listed, that are not as quality and as safe as this could be. So this one does 12 volts and up to 3 amps. So I'm guessing you could actually connect this directly to a 12 volt battery and it should run fine. So let's talk a little bit more about networking and the possibilities of this. And why would somebody want to get some of these wired stuff? And by the way, guys, I'm not sponsored by any people. This is the stuff that I'm interested in. I get excited about it, and I browse Amazon listings, and I do research and watch YouTube videos to learn more. So thumb up this video if you like the information and you want me to make some more interesting videos about this. So we already talked about this switch. This switch is fantastic. I mean, completely fanless. So there's no stupid fans running here. It's 10 gigabit speeds. It's more expensive, but it's okay. If you don't want to buy the $1,000 switch, you could get this one for $250. This one only has fiber optic ports. But if you want to stretch a signal or a signal cable or a fiber optic cable long distances, you want to use fiber optics anyway. So anything over 300 meters. So what's cool about this is that this is fanless. There's a 9-port switch, and then there's the 5-port switch. You see this? 4 SFP ports. So what you could do is you could also, the fiber optic ports, these can be converted to a regular Ethernet port, which could be done with this. Turn this. You see what this does is that you could stick it into that port and it's going to give you an Ethernet port on the other end. So technically speaking, if you want the 10 gigabit, you could actually use one of those fiber optic switches and use this transceiver in there that switches it over to that. Fiber optic internet is probably the fastest for networking. And what are the possibilities? Let's just quickly go through it one by one. So for fiber optic cables, you want to go to Fiber Cables Direct. And this is the type of OMC cable that you want to order. There's a whole bunch of different fiber optic cables, but you want the 10M OM4 LC fiber patch cable, and you might want the armored one because the fiber optic cables, they're a little bit thin, and if you have a metal shielding around it, it's kind of nice. So this is a 33 feet for $45, but you need to attach a little adapter thing on the ends. It's called a transceiver. So this is the transceiver. This is the ones I have, and this is the ones that work. Transceivers, $15 each, bunk. You see, it plugs into that, and you have 10 gigabit networking. Next, how do you connect? Or if you have a close connection, you don't have to necessarily actually get a fiber optic cable. you see, up to 7 meters, 20 feet, you could get these direct attach cables. So what it is that it's a cable it's not fiber optics inside, it's just a cable inside. So these are all tried and tested things that I've ordered myself. So this converter we already talked about, and this is really cool. So if you want the fiber optic connection on a Thunderbolt computer, you need a USB 4 or a Thunderbolt 3 enabled computer, and you could actually plug in SFP plus 10 gigabit Ethernet internet into it. But if you want just the regular copper cable internet 10 gigabit, you can use the SABRENT. This one's basically one left, but this gives you 10 gigabits a second. But the issue is this, with these up here, you need the Thunderbolt connection. So you need a newer computer that has the Thunderbolt. You need a MacBook, Mac Pro, Mac Mini. A lot of the Mac stuff, they have Thunderbolt 3 built in or Thunderbolt 4. So yeah, you get the fastest speed with these, but they get hot and they might not be as nice as these devices. These are 5 gigabit connectors. What I like about these is that they work pretty much with every computer, and they do 5 gigabit and they do 2.5 gigabit. Notice over here, these ports are 2.5 gigabit. So if anything, it will step down to 5 gigabit, and this is much smaller, and it uses regular USB-C ports that, you know, most computers and laptops have. So you could probably connect this to right to this iPad and connect to the internet using this. Here's another option. This one, the QNAP one. Of course, QNAP, I love you guys, but somebody is, not pulling off their best descriptions, because you guys should be getting much better reviews. I mean, 199 reviews, that's pretty good. Okay. So that's 5 gigabit Ethernet. So this is nice. Unless you have Thunderbolt or USB 4, you can't really use the other one. And these are much smaller and they don't get as hot, but you still get up to 500 megabytes a second. So most of my network, I have these connected into my 10 gigabit switches that give me up to like 400 or 500 megabytes a second connection between my PCs. But unless it's this iPad, which has an adapter that is a standard Ethernet 1 gigabit. And this SABRENT I like. What I like about this one is that it has a USB-C connection on one end, and it basically, you could use any USB-C cable, a C to A port, a C to C port. It doesn't really matter. It's not like the first one where this cable is built into it. That's kind of like short. You don't want this heavy fat dongle sitting around here. With that one, with the SABRENT or the QNAP, you can actually plug in a cable and make it long an extension. So what's the point of a 10 gigabit network? The point of that is that you want to connect what's called a network attached storage, a NAS. A NAS allows you to back up your photos, like from your iPhone. If you want to transfer it right to a network attached device, you could do it wirelessly through your Wi-Fi as long as your device is connected, and you could also connect to this through the internet. So this allows you to back the stuff up. What I like about this device is it's a 10 gigabit device. 10 gigabit enabled device. And it's fanless, so it doesn't have noise. It has 10 gigabit ports, and it's designed to be industrial. That it's like a set it and forget it design. So imagine a 10 gigabit connection, so it could do up to a gigabit a second, but also understand that the hard drives inside this thing can only do maximum 500 megabytes a second. So those 5 gigabit connection SABRENT adapters, for example, might be ideal for those, because you can get 300 or 400 megabytes connecting to it. So when you have a QNAP, there's an app called Backup, and you could transfer photos and videos from your iPhone or Android device and have a backup right on this device, and then access it from any computer, even through the internet. So what's really cool is that, just think about it like this. This is on 24/7. It doesn't use much power, and the hard drives aren't that expensive for it. 7.68 terabytes for $562. That's pretty good. If you have 768 terabytes, and then you could put 4 of those into here. Let's say you lose some data to system, activities. You can max this out with 24 terabytes of space, quickly accessible through your network, and it feels great to do that. And here's another solution. See this one, for example. This one uses NVMe drives. So this one is even smaller. But I like the industrial one. This one I don't have. But I was looking at it, but what made me not buy it is that it has only 2.5 gigabit connections. But it's portable as heck. Look at the size of this thing. I mean, it's pretty tiny, let's just say. So it has 2.5 gigabit ports. So you could technically combine these 2 ports. Imagine 2.5 gigabit ports connected over here in one of these devices. That's kind of cool. It's smaller. The device is very small. And right now, NVMe drives, like this one, like the Crucial, is very inexpensive. You could get a 4 terabyte for $224. So technically, you could max this out reasonably inexpensively with 4 terabyte drives.
And thank you for watching our video.
Oh man.
In this video,
stupid videos. Anyways, QNAP, you could do better. So this device would have been excellent, and I would have bought it if it had 10 gigabit ports. This is not fast enough for me. But at 2.5 gigabits, I mean 250 megabytes a second, how much faster do you need? And this is much smaller. It uses smaller drives, it's very inexpensive, and I mean the device is great. So let's quickly overlook this QNAP device again. Let's look it over. So, what is the point of this device? The point of this one is, hey, I don't need wireless connection. All my connections are wired anyway. If I want a Wi-Fi router, I'll go buy another device. They have some sort of Wi-Fi one of this. But that requires huge antennas. It requires cooling fans. And it might not be the healthiest thing for the body. I mean, look, I personally don't want to have extra radio frequencies going through my body to watch a YouTube video or send an email. Most devices that we could use with this USB-C, or turn off the internet connection and turn it off. I prefer, for example, on my phone to just turn on the internet when I need it. So I want to watch a YouTube video, I can turn on the cell phone internet. Or send a quick email, I turn it on. But the rest of the time it's off, but I'm still getting text messages, I'm still, getting phone calls. This is really great. I mean, most switches are 1 gigabit. Most routers are wireless. Everybody has this wireless craze. And then one of the things that I have to ask you, why are we letting companies decide what if we don't want wireless? This is why I like supporting a company like this. And I also support Taiwan. It's their own country. They manufacture all our processing chips. And this is not made in China. This is made in Taiwan. I like these guys. So this is enterprise, concurrent VPN connections. There's other people that made videos about this one. This guy called Nas Compares. Shouts out to him. He's great. And look, you could set up VPNs. I just like this. So I'm gonna connect it, test it out, see how I like it, and most likely you're just gonna get this video raw and unfiltered like I like to make them. I think that's the way that they're supposed to be done. That you could actually enjoy it and just get to the point. What is the point? So when you could actually create a VPN connection. So I recommend getting private internet access. With privateinternetaccess.com, you can create a VPN and others can't see what you're doing online. See, like WireGuard is a VPN. So watch global videos. So let's say you're in one of those countries where they block freedom of speech and don't let you watch videos. You could just put the settings on this. It will connect to a VPN in another country and it will let you watch it. So guys, welcome to connect to US VPNs. And wow. And you see? And if you want the wireless one, see this one has Wi-Fi. For 1 gigabit. Why would you want 1 gigabit for the Wi-Fi? Yuck. Meanwhile, you get the nicer ports over here. The 310 gigabit ports. It's great. It's a great device. So guys, thumb up the video. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the links. All these links in this video I gave below. And all right, friends. I mean, let's do this and let's have a discussion. Do you want to be always wireless, or do you want to explore options that are wired? When everybody is doing one thing, I just also don't understand this herd mentality. Just, hey, why don't we all just go wireless and just do what the corporations tell us? And that gets the corporations lazy as heck. Everybody just makes a stupid wireless router. And these guys, they're like, oh, wow. There is a demand for a wired router that has fast connection speeds. I mean, look, for $400, really? You put 1 gigabit ports on something when people have fiber optic internet? Okay, that's completely useless. And these antennas, and it makes a heck of a lot of noise. I mean, I do like the 310 gigabit ports, but think about what happens. One of these ports is for connecting your internet to the internet connection, so up to 2 gigabits. And then you have to connect the 10 gigabit switch or some other switch before doing that. Meanwhile, with this, okay, so you want a wireless router, just connect it to one of these 2.5 gigabit ports. Big freaking deal. Just have a separate freaking wireless router if somebody wants it. Or if you don't want one, and if you decide to change your lifestyle like me, I mean, if you to each their own. But the way that I see it is that, the food system, if you're not eating organic, I don't know what you're doing. If you're not at least filtering your water, I'm not sure what you're doing either. Because if you care about your health, you might be wanting to consider that to have the most healthiest environments that are free from electromagnetic pollution, and pollution in general kind of sucks. They got us chasing carbon dioxide, which we exhale. So there's a war on people breathing, literally. And they keep saying carbon, carbon, carbon. I mean, really? Really, guys? Anyways, let's have a great discussion. Let's enjoy the video. Let's do a thumbs up. And let's have a great day. And just see, what can we do better? What can we enjoy? What have we learned? And thank God for everything. Gloria in Excelsis Deo.